Hello everyone, welcome to Moving to Australia podcast with Amitava Deb. I'm Arun Belur and a warm welcome to the founder of Debika Migration Services, Amitava. Hi Amitava, welcome. It's been a long time. How are you?
I'm good, Arun. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Mm-hmm.
So on Tuesday, 14th May, Treasurer Jim Chalmers announced the federal budget for 2024-25.
Right.
In today's episode, we are exploring the Australian government's recent announcement on the 2024-25 migration program.
That's right, yeah.
In the budget, the migration program planning levels for 2024-25 have been set at 185,000. We will focus on the composition of the new planning levels and the new measures being introduced to address critical skill shortages, boosting regional growth, and reuniting families. So let's unpack the nuances of the skill-focused migration strategy first and discuss its potential to transform Australia's economic and social landscape. So the split between skills and family stream is now 70-30. So what does the composition look like for the 2024-25 program?
Okay, Arun, for the 2024-25 migration program, the total allotted seat is 185,000, out of which 132,200 places are for skilled migration or skilled stream. They call it stream because the skilled stream is composed of several subclasses. And then there are 52,500 places for family stream.
All right.
Yeah, the total number is slightly higher than the earlier planning year.
What was it last year? Do we have the numbers?
It was around 170,000.
Okay. Now, within skill streams, we have employer-sponsored category, state-nominated category, skilled independent category, BIIP, which is Business Innovation and Investor Program,
yes,
Global Talent category. So what changes do we see within these categories compared with last year?
It's as of now, it is mainly the numbers. There is a lot of focus on employer-sponsored because it is driven by the labor market. Last year, the figure was 36,825, and this year it has been increased to 44,000. The skilled independent, however, last year, while it was 30,375, it's almost halved now to 16,900.
Oh, any reason why that could be the case?
It probably, I think it's not really driven by the market. So skilled independent is based mainly on certain occupations that in the long term has some demands in the market. And once they're here, they will look for jobs, etc. Whereas employer-sponsored is for those who are already in employment or will be employed by employers who require the expertise of these who come from overseas in occupations that are probably not easy to find locally.
So let's move on to state and territory nominated now.
Yeah, state and territory, the regional ones are more or less the same. Last year it was 30,300, this year is 33,000. That's regional. State nominated, which is subclass 190. Last year was 30,400. It has increased to 33,000. Yeah. Also, business innovation and investment, BII, is also state nominated. It's a state nominated provisional visa for business persons. Last year it was 1,900, which was a drop from the previous years. And this year it is going to be further dropped to 1,000. Although they say 1,000, I'm not sure how it will be distributed. I think we'll discuss more about it later. And there's this global talent visa independent. The numbers are also going to be dropped this time. Earlier, two years ago it was 15,000, last year 5,000, and now it's 4,000. This is for highly talented people in their own target streams. There are about 10 innovation streams For example, in Digitech, we have AI and cybersecurity. These are the innovation streams. There is innovation stream in academics and few others. Those are global talent visas. And then there's distinguished talent, which has always been there, only 300 places. It doesn't change. And this is for people who are prominent in their field of arts or music or sport. For example, Steven Spielberg, if he wants to migrate, he will fit into that.
Okay, moving along to family stream. Family stream makes up 28% of the program.
Yes.
The stream is predominantly made up of partner visas. From 2022-23, the partner visa category moved to a demand-driven model. Talk us through what that means and how it could benefit Australians who are waiting to reunite with their family members.
So demand-driven, it has been demand-driven for a while. Demand-driven means every year they allot certain places, and then at the end of the year they will see if there was a surplus or they ran out, and accordingly they will adjust the number of places the subsequent years. What has been found is that the numbers which were kept at around 40,500 for partner visas and 3,000 for child visas, they are more or less the same. The demand remains the same. And the demand-driven, what was the other question about demand-driven? You asked me about the demand-driven, what's the benefit of it? Right.
How it could benefit Australians who are waiting to reunite with their families?
Well, I think partner visa is important because an Australian worker, an Australian citizen who has a non-Australian partner, foreign passport holder, who hasn't yet got the visa, probably goes through a lot of stress and it affects his work. So it has certain impacts on the social front, on the economic front, and also from the demographic. There are certain demographic benefits because if they are united, maybe they'll have children who will be the future of Australia. So all these are some of the benefits which are part of the family reunification scheme, where partners are given priority, partner visas.
Okay. Now, coming back to business innovation and investor program, right? What's the future of BIP category? You spoke to me last week and you mentioned that there's going to be some massive changes coming along.
Yes, basically this will be combined with the global talent visa. In fact, I have done that in the past where I've got business innovation people come under global talent visa. So if there is a businessman who has a startup on innovation, I had someone who manufactures or uses pharma-grade lactose for manufacturing pharmaceutical companies, the white base. In Australia, it goes waste. So that kind of business is high in demand. In Australia, it helps the economy. So that person actually came through the Global Talent Visa program, although everyone thought it was for PhD. So it's not PhD. It's about innovation. Someone who has a PhD, they think they're entitled to this visa, Global Talent Visa. In fact, it is not that way. It goes on under a lot of accessibility factors. One of them could be PhD and how many research publications you have done, what kind of contributions you are going to make to Australia if you were to get that visa. So there's a bit of a commonality between the two. Also, government has found out that business innovation visa is a failure.
And why is that?
That's because it is not attracting the real business people. All they're getting is those people who come here and set up a small supermarket and somehow try to meet the criteria of employment, getting to Australian employers. And some even come here and retire. So they wanted to make it more for entrepreneurs who can come and contribute, not get into some kind of small business or a passive business or passive investment. That's what has been happening.
So now both Global Talent and BIP, they will be replaced with what is called a National Innovation Visa?
Yes, National Innovation Visa. That will probably come towards the end of this year. So wait for more information, and we might have another podcast.
And this will be a permanent visa pathway, the National Innovation Visa?
Most probably, yes. There could be two-step pathways as well, where someone comes with certain conditions. It depends on the visa.
Now the budget introduces a new ballot for the work and holiday visa program for applicants from China, Vietnam, and India. So tell us a bit about what this new ballot process is, how much it's going to cost for applicants, and who is it aimed at?
Right. So basically, this is subclass 462, which is work and holiday visa. It has always been there for a lot of countries with those passport holders from those countries. Every country has an annual cap. Okay. China, the cap has been 5,000, and then Vietnam has been 1,500. I think for India it will be
Probably 1,000.
1,000, yeah, something like that. Now, what is going to happen is China, China, India, and Vietnam. There is a huge number of applicants. So, just to make sure that there is a certain amount of fairness in the criteria of selection, they are going to introduce the ballot for the first work and holiday program, not for the successive ones because they are already here. For the first one, because the demand is going to be huge.
How does this ballot process work? Do you have any insight into it?
So they will ask for an expression of interest, and there is going to be a small fee to enter the ballot. I can't remember what the fee was.
Is it $25?
Yes.
Per applicant?
Per applicant, $25. And then they'll be selected. Once they're selected, they have to make the payment. 462. It's not 417. 417 does not have a lot of criteria, but 462 is for countries. Each country, the passport holders of each of these countries have separate set of criteria. They also need
Understand. How many eligible countries are there? Any idea? Over 20?
Yeah, over 20.
Now, a very interesting change that you pointed out to me is that the department has announced that they would like to move over to a multi-year planning model, extending the planning horizon to 4 years from the current 12-month cycle. Yeah. So can you talk to us a bit about this and what's the thinking behind this?
So what they're going to do is they're probably going to allocate the program, the numbers, the quota, and the per state allocation for a chunk of 4 years at a time. This allows a better management of the program. But it'll be better aligned with long-term infrastructure, housing, and services planning across all levels of government. So they can ensure that the supply and demand are in sync with the inflow of the migrants into the country.
And the decision will be taken upon by the end of this year?
End of this year.
And it will be ratified by the end of this year as well?
Yes, but it will be implemented from 2025 to 26 planning year onwards. So the first one will be 25-26 to 28-29. So we don't have to wait for 1 year and then the quota is exhausted and then we wait for another year. So it'll be 4 years at a time, just like the governance model, where the government comes for a period of 4 years.
Thank you for your time and your insights, Amitava. There's a lot more happening, I believe, with the new migration program. as far as the budget is concerned, and the new measures that are going to be implemented to make it more streamlined. So we will be talking about this in a lot more detail in our subsequent podcasts coming soon.
We can also talk about in the subsequent podcast about the point system and the changes that might come, because a lot of people are eager to know what's happening. Will my PT score be valid? Will NATI be valid?
Sure.
And etc. etc. We can talk about it.
So thank you folks for tuning in. For those of you who have not subscribed to our podcast, please do so. The links to Amitava's LinkedIn handle and of course our business page will be in the podcast description. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And see you next week.